Just 1 second here. All right, so we should be good to go. Should be recording, should be set to roll call. And since we don't have a vice chair at this point, what I can do is I can run us through a roll call. I'll say your name, and if you're present, please say present. So we can start with Alder Corpus Dax.
Present.
Christina Ortiz.
Present.
Michael Vinson.
Present.
Tara Yang.
Present.
John Shelton.
Present.
Saeed Hassan.
Present.
Marcus Gringo.
Present.
And then Elizabeth Kosica. Did I say that correctly?
Perfect. Yes, present.
All right, got lucky. Okay, so we're all present. Now I got to go back to our software here. Just 1 second here. Should be good. So now we're on to approval of the agenda. So at this point, with approval of the agenda, this would be the time where if we want to change any items around. I don't think we're going to do that today. But for some reason, let's say we had an item at the bottom of the order and we knew that the members of the public wanted to speak on it. Sometimes we move it up to the top so the public isn't waiting for a long time. Or if we have an item where a commissioner maybe isn't going to be present for the whole meeting, we want them to be present, so we might move that up as well. But today, I don't think we're going to be changing the order up. So if we're not, I guess what I can do is take a motion to approve the agenda and then a second.
I move to approve the agenda. Oh, I'll do the second.
All right, so motion to approve by Alder Corpus Dax and then seconded by Michael Vinson. So all in favor, please say aye.
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 And then all opposed say nay. Oh, yep, go ahead. Or did someone say a question or no? I might be hearing things. Okay, so we have motion. Just 1 second here. And we should be all set. Okay. All right, so 1 second. All right, so that motion approved. So now we're on to the informational items with the introductions. So I'll turn over to Mayor Genrich to start us off with introductions.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Eric Genrich, Mayor of Green Bay. Really excited to be joining you all, and just wanted to thank you for stepping up and accepting the appointment to serve on the Equal Rights Commission. You know, as a city, we've had some similar bodies like this in our past, but for whatever reason, kind of lost the thread, lost track of them, and haven't had an Equal Rights Commission or a Human Rights Commission formed and meeting for a very long time in the city of Green Bay. And so just very excited by this moment, appreciative, as I said, to you all for stepping up and accepting to serve on this commission. Also very grateful to Lindsey Mather, who's joining us, who is the person who drafted the Equal Rights Ordinance, which included a lot of anti-discriminatory language, but also the creation of the Equal Rights Commission. So grateful that she's going to be assisting you all and was super helpful in creating this body in the first place. Also wanted to recognize Raya Sankari Diaz, who's of course going to be offering an introduction, but she's our diversity and inclusion coordinator and has been really instrumental in moving a number of these initiatives forward. I think a number of you know Ahmed Rivera Wagner, who's my chief of staff, was also very helpful in his first days, really getting to work on this piece of legislation, working with alders, principally Alder Dorff, who is the author of this ordinance and was really instrumental in bringing this forward. So wanted to recognize him for his work as well. So thanks for joining us. This is, as I said, really exciting to me. It's a big deal for this city. I think it says a lot about where we are and hopefully where we're moving. And I think the timing of this meeting is pretty apt in that it comes just, I think, less than a week away from when new census numbers were released for all communities across the United States, including the city of Green Bay, which I think we saw a lot of good news contained in those numbers. First of all, we're growing. And as an urban community, that's a really, really positive sign. Of the top 5 communities in the state of Wisconsin, we're the second fastest growing. Madison, growing by leaps and bounds, I think everybody knows. But we were number 2 in that regard. Kenosha was 3rd, and then Milwaukee and Racine actually losing population. So we're really fortunate to be in the spot of growing by 3% from 104,000 to roughly 107 plus thousand residents. But the reason that we're growing is connected to why we're convening this body as well. We're diversifying as a community, and I think I and you and a huge majority of our residents recognize that as a real strength. So I think it's appropriate. The timing obviously just kind of worked out in that way, but it's appropriate that we're meeting on the heels of that release. And then finally, I just kind of wanted to give you, I guess, my impression or thoughts of the charge of this commission and the work that's ahead of all of us. I really hope that this work will be, I guess, 2 things broadly characterized, both substantive, but also celebratory. I think, sometimes these groups or these discussions kind of fold into one or the other, but I really want this to be a space of both, where we focus on, some of these difficult challenges that we see in this community, identifying injustices and inequities and doing what we can at the local level to address them, but also using this as a space to celebrate the diversity that we witness in this community every single day. So, it's a tall order, but I know that you all are up for the task. Otherwise, would not have been selected, certainly would not have accepted the appointment. So again, very grateful to all of you for stepping up and taking on this task. One final thing I think related to those comments in terms of what I'm hoping to see out of this commission, we will be providing you all a copy of the Essential Kerner Commission, which it's a recently released, re-edited, and a little bit condensed version of the Kerner Commission report, which was a document published in the 60s in the wake of urban uprisings and some riots, and was kind of a diagnosis of why those events occurred. And it wasn't just solely about police community interactions. There were a lot of other systemic issues going on in the 60s, and unfortunately, some of those things still plague us in terms of inaccessibility to affordable housing and far too many people that live in poverty. So, and this was an idea of Ahmed's to kind of center this work on this document, or using this document really to this commission. So like I said, we'll be providing you all with a copy of that. Hopefully it offers a little bit of inspiration to the work ahead. So thanks again for joining us tonight, but more importantly for the work that you've committed yourselves to. I'm really proud of what you're going to be able to accomplish. So glad to be joining you all.
All right, well, thank you, Mayor Genrich. And I can just go, very quickly. I'm Joe Falls. I think I talked to most of you before the meeting. I'm the Human Resources Director. I've been the director for about 4 years, and I can just echo what the mayor said. We've been talking about diversity and inclusion for the past, few years since I've been the director. And with the mayor's office, we created the diversity and inclusion coordinator position, and we created the Equal Rights Commission too. And that's kind of the first step to really making this an inclusive community and organization. So I'm very excited about it, and I know you guys are excited too. So this is the first step, and I guess let's get started. I guess Raya, do you want to go next, and then maybe Lindsey, and then maybe Ahmed after Lindsey?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. As Joe and Mayor mentioned, I'm Raya Sankari Diaz, and I'm the Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator here at the City of Green Bay. I am absolutely delighted to be here with you this afternoon, and I am so excited to just be part of this group and listen to you as commissioners and really hear about the different variations of issues that you're seeing and hearing about in the community. And I look forward to being an active listener and participant in this process. And I'm here to serve as a resource and really just help to understand more of the issues in the community. So thank you for joining us and thank you for your participation in this group.
So we kind of threw a curveball at Lindsey. We said our introductions are going to be short, but so Lindsey, we're going to hear a lot from you in a little bit. So, go ahead.
As they know, I can usually talk for a little while anyway. So I'm Lindsey Mather. I'm an assistant city attorney here with the city. The Equal Rights Ordinance was actually one of the very first significant ordinances that I had the pleasure of working on when I started a couple years ago, and it ended up getting passed last July. And so I was really honored to be able to be part of that process, and to still be part of that process is also something I'm real for. So glad to be here with you all tonight, and also looking forward to everything you're going to accomplish.
Hey everyone, Ahmed, lucky enough to be the mayor's chief of staff. I know many of you and looking forward to knowing the few of you that I do not. I'm just really excited and passionate that so many people are coming together to kind of tackle inclusion head on, and just excited to be working for a city that has so many incredible staff and folks who are focused on diversity, inclusion, and putting us on a pathway forward. And I look forward to, if there's anything I can do to be helpful, please let me know. You can always reach out to the mayor's office, to the mayor directly. He's actually very accessible. And if there's anything else I can do to be helpful, I'm just going to be assistant to Joe and Raya and the mayor as we figure out, and as you all figure out what your plans are moving forward. But I think there's a lot of really exciting interest on this, and you all will be ambassadors, if you will, on diversity and inclusion in the city of Green Bay. So I couldn't be more happy to be working with all of you and look forward to what you'll accomplish.
So I don't really know a good way to go about this, so I guess I'll just call on people to start and give an introduction. And Alder Corpus Dax, I'll start with you as the member from the Common Council.
Screen's on me right when I'm ready to talk. Hi, my name is Alder Corpus Dax. I've been a resident of the city of Green Bay for the past 43 years. So I've seen a lot of change in those 43 years of, just changing dynamics of our community. So I was really happy first when that ordinance was proposed and it passed, and now with this formation of this group. Thank you all for agreeing to participate. I'm very excited to see the changes that we can bring forward with this group. It's nice to meet most of you. I know Christina she was one of my college professors, so it's good to see her. Raya, welcome aboard. We haven't met yet, being that everything's been virtual, so it's nice to meet you. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
So great introduction to Commissioner Christina Ortiz. Do you want to go?
Hello, everyone. My name is Christina Ortiz. And as Elder Corpus Dax mentioned, I teach at the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay. Of course, I met her when she was my student. She was in kindergarten, right? I'm very honored to be part of this group. I think it's a great, it speaks highly of Green Bay as a city to have this group and to address some of the issues of our community. As the mayor said, introductory speech, we're growing, and with growth also comes issues that need to be addressed. So I'm going to try my best to help as much as I can.
All right, then if we can go to Go Commissioner John Shelton.
Yeah, hi, everybody. John Shelton. I'm a professor at UW Green Bay, one of Christina's colleagues. Also on the executive council of UW Faculty and Staff Union here, and serve as vice president of higher education for American Federation of Teachers, Wisconsin. So definitely coming at this from a labor perspective, and proud and excited to do that. Just want to really echo what everybody else, has been saying so far. I feel like this is a very exciting opportunity. I know a lot of the people on this commission already, and those I don't, I think I know just about everybody by reputation. So I think it really speaks highly to the work of the mayor and Ahmed in putting together such a great commission. And yeah, it's really exciting to be moving this conversation forward, and I'm thrilled to be here. So, well, nice to see everybody, and thanks for having me.
And then Commissioner Michaelinson.
Good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. I live just down the road from Alder Corpus Dax with my husband Todd and our two little ones, Elijah and Ellie. I work professionally at Schreiber Foods right downtown as a sales director, and there have been heavily involved with our DEI efforts over the years, helping to create our D&I Council, served as the founding chair of our Pride Business Resource Group, and outside of work, served on the board for Fair Wisconsin, our stage LGBTQ rights advocacy organization, and I'm so thrilled to see this come to Green Bay and to be a part of it with all of you.
All right, then Commissioner Elizabeth Kosica.
Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Elizabeth Kosica. I'm originally from Mexico. I know that for the last name you wouldn't tell, but that's my husband's last name. I have been living in Wisconsin for 31 years. And yes, when I arrived in Green Bay, there were very few Hispanics. I had to go to Milwaukee for my tortillas once a month. But now, I don't know, within the last 15 years, it just, the Hispanic community has just exploded in Green Bay, which is awesome. Many Mexican restaurants and supermarkets and everything. So I am very involved in the community, always have been volunteer at San Willebrats, I know for the last 25 years or so. Also, I am a volunteer at Casa Alba and started with Sister Melanie since the beginning, the planning of Casa Alba. And I'm there every Tuesdays helping. My profession is I am an insurance broker. I have my own, I am a small business owner. I have my own agency for health and life. And I assist the Hispanic community and also the Anglos, obviously, as an insurance advisor. I help our community a lot into applying for Medicaid, explaining the benefits and trying to have access to healthcare when resources are not available for our community because of legal status. So that's one of the major problems that we have that hopefully, we can look into that in the future. But yeah, that's what I do. So I'm an insurance broker. And I'm also right now helping in the Hispanic community to coordinate the vaccines. So a lot of the clinics going on around are with collaboration with Casa Alba, Prevea, and different healthcare systems around the city. So yeah, I'm very excited, to be part of this commission, and I appreciate the invitation. So I'm honored. Looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
And then Commissioner Saeed Hassan.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Saeed Hassan. I am the co-founder and the president, executive director of Community Services Agency, also known as COMSA. I've been working with refugees and immigrants. I lived in different countries, left my country when I was 10 years old. Can't remember how Somalia looks like. But grew up in Kenya and South Africa, and again, ended up in Green Bay. So once, Mayor Eric Gendrich was, elected to this position, we have seen change. Started coming to to visit the community, trying to notice the presence of refugees and immigrants. And so for me, serving this commission is another gesture towards a right direction. And knowing also Ahmed Rivera on, getting to know him and getting to work with him was also another pleasure. And to me, it's more like I came from South Africa, so they call it a rainbow nation, meaning different people coming together and sharing different ideas and ideologies and viewpoints, and that's when things work together more, more nicely. So I look forward to working with each and every one of you. I know I do have familiar faces here, but the rest of you, my name is Saeed. I'm always open to having a cup of coffee. I like talking, learning from others. So yeah, it was just nice coming over and learning and listening from you guys. Thank you so much for the appointment.
And we have Commissioner Tara Yang.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry if my camera is faced the other way, but my name is Tara Yang. My family and I are small business owners. We own Main Oriental Market right downtown Green Bay across the county public library there. We've been in business for about 15 years now, and I've moved around the Midwest quite a bit, but I've been back home for a little over 3 years, four years or so. I lost track, but I've been home for some time now. But I also am a member of the Economic Development Authority Committee for the city and also a member of the Ad Hoc Equity Committee for the county. And so my hopes is to be able to bridge the county and the city together in what we're working on with DE&I, and hopefully we're not doing double the work. So my hopes is to be able to relay to this group or this commission what we're doing with the county at the county level. But I'm super excited to be here, and like Commissioner Shelton was saying, I haven't met all of you in person, but I'm familiar with some of your work, so I'm thankful that we're all here together, and hopefully this leads to a beautiful, bright future for Green Bay. So thanks for having me on the commission.
All right, then finally we have Commissioner Marcus Gringo.
Poso Manuia, Nakato Manowich, Kikitim, Kispiso, Mukake, Nipakayan, Mashik, Nuiswan, Marcus Grino. Hello, everyone. My people know me as Kispiso McCake or Swift Otter. I was named Marcus Grino by my parents. Was born and raised in Green Bay. Was gone for a little bit. Was working in Washington, D.C. and Santa Fe, New Mexico. There's two of the different locations I've lived in my life. I'm from the Menominee Indian tribe. We're a tribe that has always been here. We didn't cross the Bering Strait Bridge, so we've always been in Wisconsin as lifelong residents, and so we hope to continue to be that way as well. And I don't believe I've met everybody on the commission. I think I just know the mayor and John Shelton, but I'm looking forward to talking with you all more and getting to know you guys more, and working with you on some important stuff that we're going to be working on. So, Wawana, thank you, and I yield the floor.
All right, so that's everyone for the introductions. Could I have so for our informational items, we typically just do a receive and place on file. So if someone can make a motion to that effect in second.
I'll make that motion.
I'm sorry, who made the first? Was that Alder Corpus Dax?
That's fine. I'll second it.
Or no, who made the first one?
Commissioner Sheldon.
Shelton. Okay, sounds great. Thank you. I'm looking at two screens, so I missed it. And we're almost there. All right. All right, now we're on to our second informational item, presentation by the City of Green Bay staff on the roles and responsibilities of the Equal Rights Commission. And I'll turn it over to Lindsey Mather.
Helps if I unmute myself.
And one thing too, before our Assistant City Attorney Mather gets started, if anyone wants to interrupt or ask questions, feel free to do that. It's going to be more of a discussion. So if you have any questions, feel free to jump in.
All right. So as Director Fald said, please feel free to ask questions as I go through. I'm hoping to provide kind of a large scale overview of what our Equal Rights Ordinance, which actually now falls in the Civil Rights chapter of the Green Bay Municipal Code. I'm going to go through what's included in the ordinance and including the responsibilities of the commission. As we go through, there's a lot of information here, so I am then happy to slow down, repeat anything, answer any questions. Like I said, interrupt me. The first few slides have a lot of words on them, but I promise they don't all after that. So the like I said, it's chapter 12 now of the Green Bay Municipal Code. I felt that it was important to include the findings and declaration of policy that the council included in the ordinance itself, because this is essentially the kind of the blueprint of what the council wanted to establish as far as what we want to achieve with the ERO in general, and then the commission. This will also be kind of what you all can refer to as far as some of the any of the program, the reporting that you do to council or to the mayor, or that you get from the city. And again, I'll get into that again in a minute, but I'll relate back to what's kind of stated here in the findings. So we'll just read it, but I am going to skip over the list of the protected classes because there's I have those spread out a little bit more and more easy to see on a separate slide. So the first finding was a vibrant, livable, successful, and productive city is made possible by the talents, contributions, and well-being of its diverse residents. It is the policy of the city that the equal rights of all those who live and work in the city are ensured, and that equal rights and equal opportunities within the context of the larger commercial and social fabric of the Green Bay community are promoted. The practice of providing equal opportunities to persons without regard to actual or perceived protected person status is a desirable goal of the city and a matter of legitimate concern to its government. Discrimination against any city resident endangers the rights and privileges of all residents. The denial of equal opportunity intensifies group conflict, undermines the foundations of democratic society, and adversely affects the general welfare of the community. Denial of equal opportunity in housing forces individuals and families who are discriminated against to live in housing that falls below reasonably acceptable standards. Denial of equal opportunity in employment deprives the community of the fullest productive capacity of those of its members so discriminated against, and denies to them the sufficiency of earnings necessary for maintaining the standards of living consistent with their abilities and talents. The provision of adequate safeguards against discrimination is a proper and necessary function of city government to protect the health, safety, and general welfare of all inhabitants of and all persons employed within the city. It is declared to be the public policy of the city to foster, protect, and enforce the right to equal opportunity without regard to protected person status or an individual's affiliation or perceived affiliation with any of these categories. To fully effectuate this policy of promoting non-discrimination, the city shall endeavor to eliminate all discrimination that may occur within the city. And I'm not going to read subsection D, but the intent is that our ordinance is intended to be interpreted and applied consistent with federal and state law, including the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Federal Fair Housing Act, and the Wisconsin statutes. That was a lot. Anybody have any questions? All right. So these are there are 3 areas in which discrimination is prohibited, which is housing, employment, and public accommodations. And then this is the list of protected persons, which includes sex, race, religion, creed, color, national origin, ancestry, age, disability, lawful source of income, marital status, familial status, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, gender nonconformity, transgender status, military service, present or former, and status as a victim of domestic abuse, sexual assault, or stalking. And just a note, it's actual or perceived affiliation with any of these classes, and actual or perceived characteristic or actual or perceived affiliation with anyone having any of these.
So I think it looks like Commissioner Shelton, do you have your hand raised?
I do. Can you tell us what lawful source of income means?
Sure. So that one is actually one that comes from the state law for the state laws against discrimination in employment. Discrimination in housing. Lawful source of income is basically however you make your money. It's not illegal. That can't be grounds for discrimination. So if it's also intended to prevent people having, 2 or 3 discrimination against people having multiple jobs, or, families with, both parents working, 2 jobs or whatever. There's a lot of different ways in which it may come up, and that's kind of true with several of these different categories. But some of these, like lawful source of income, and some of the status ones, like the victim of a domestic abuse, sexual assault, stalking, veteran status, some of those things are more, they come up more in certain contexts than in others. But that one typically applies and comes up most frequently in housing.
Awesome, thank you, appreciate it.
You bet. Okay, so just to give a little bit more detail on prohibited housing discrimination, our ordinance prohibits refusing to sell or rent property because of a person's protected status. This also includes things like falsely informing somebody that a property is no longer available, or it kind of goes along with the next one, any advertisement expressing a preference for or against any particular protected class is also prohibited under the ordinance. Prohibits discrimination by real estate agencies or any, this says mortgage company, but it's really any entity that provides loans essentially for housing, that would either just prohibits discrimination as to the availability of those services or the terms of those services based on protected status. So you can't charge certain people more or less money. You can't give them different interest rates based on protected status, those types of things. And then failure to make reasonable accommodations for persons with disabilities. Under the ordinance, this includes things like refusing to allow a tenant, for example, to make reasonable changes to the living area if they are going to return the space to how it was prior to moving out, or they are sorry, totally just lost my train of thought. Let me just pull this up so I don't misstate this here. I knew this was going to happen at least once. Yes, so if any modifications to the premises are necessary for the person to fully enjoy the use of their premises, so that could be, for example, if it's like an apartment building, it would be both their individual apartment as well as any common areas. If it's in an individual apartment and they are going to make the modifications at their own expense, you can't refuse to do that, except that if it is a rental, you can condition it upon returning it to the original state once they leave the apartment, except for reasonable wear and tear, which is always part of rental damage that tenants are not responsible for. So there's also a provision in this section that allows or prohibits, I should say, discriminating against a person with a disability who has an animal who is specifically trained to help them with their disability. And I will note that the way that it is written right now, they are required to provide credentials issued by a school recognized by the state or a state agency for training animals to help people with disabilities. So what would be considered emotional support animals typically would not fall under this this particular prohibition. There are certain exceptions in the ordinance as well. Housing that is specifically dedicated for elderly persons, individuals with disabilities, veterans, the homeless, survivors of domestic violence, those types of specific housing opportunities, those are not considered violations or option under the ordinance. Owners may still require a person who wants to either buy or rent from them to provide things like documentation of previous places that they've lived, familial, marital status, business status, financial status, things that you would be expected to provide anytime that you were buying or renting any kind of housing, as long as the request for that information is not intended as a way to kind of subvert the requirement that you not discriminate against any protected class. Oops, it's in the wrong window, sorry. There we go. Okay, so the next broad category is discrimination in public accommodations, and it's actually referred to in the ordinance as public places of accommodation or amusement. And these are accommodations, facilities, and services that holds out to be open to the common and general use, participation, and enjoyment of the public for any purpose. So this would include hotels, bars, healthcare providers, businesses, amusement parks, anything like that, but it does not include private clubs or events sponsored by private nonprofit organizations where the attendees are members or the guests of members. And the ordinance prohibits discrimination in those public accommodations by doing things like denying entry to anyone who's in a protected class or charging them different rates. Again, advertising or even just distributing. It doesn't have to be an advertisement under the ordinance, but any communication that's distributed that expresses a preference for or against a group of protected persons, denying anyone the opportunity to participate in the same programs and activities as everyone else, even if separate or different activities are made available. That's particularly applicable to individuals with disabilities. You still have to make reasonable accommodations as required by things like the Americans with Disabilities Act. And it goes along with the last one as well, discrimination on the basis of disability or failure to provide reasonable accommodations. The exception here is special rates for senior citizens. The ordinance also prohibits discrimination in city facilities, which don't strictly fall under the definition of public accommodations under the ordinance. So we did be sure to include a provision that prohibits discrimination within city facilities as well. All right, the last kind of broad category is employment discrimination. So the ordinance prohibits failing to hire, promote, or otherwise provide any privileges of employment or compensation to any individual because of protected person status. That applies to current employees as well as prospective applicants. Failure to reasonably accommodate a person's disability, failure to reasonably accommodate a person's religious observance or practice, and sexual harassment is also prohibited. The city policy is and has been for a while to include anti-discrimination clauses in its contracts. So with entities that contract with the city, we do include provisions in those contracts that typically state that they will not discriminate in their hiring practices or their that's a condition of getting a contract with the city. The exceptions are things that you would typically see in the employment context, things like bona fide seniority systems. Again, bona fide meaning that they are legitimate and not something that was created as a way to favor certain protected classes over others. The ordinance also provides for an exception for religious organizations who are hiring instructional positions. And also the consideration of an individual's disability is permissible when the disability is reasonably related to the person's ability to perform job-related responsibilities. All right. There is a forfeiture provision in the ordinance. If anyone is found in municipal court to be in violation of this ordinance, they can be assessed a forfeiture of up to $1,000. Oops, I forgot to take that slide out because I put that information on this slide as well. Sorry about that. So anyone who's been aggrieved or injured by a violation of Chapter 12, meaning anyone who thinks that they have been discriminated in a way that is prohibited under our Civil Rights Ordinance, can file a written complaint with the city clerk, as long as they do so within 300 days of the violation. The complainant has to sign the complaint and provide the clerk's office with their original signature. So it can't be a copy. The complaint itself must contain all of this information, which includes their name and address, the name and address of the person who is alleged to have engaged in the discrimination, names and contact information for any witnesses, the dates of the alleged violation, detailed description of the discrimination that occurred, a description of any injury suffered. Injury in this context would not typically refer to a physical injury, but more of, for example, if it were employment discrimination and they were not promoted and they thought that that was, discrimination, then the injury may be the salary difference that they believe that they were denied because of discriminatory reasons. And then also any other important facts that they believe should be included. And so once a complaint comes in to the city clerk, they'll send it to the city attorney's office for review. The first steps of the review by our office will be for completeness and for jurisdiction. If any of those things on the previous slide are not included, the incomplete complaint will be returned to the complainant with a statement of what is missing so that they can and refile if they choose to do so. Our office will not exercise jurisdiction over complaints that fall within the jurisdiction of any state or federal equal rights agency, which includes the HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and the State of Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development's Equal Rights Division. If any other, among others, there may be others, depending on the facts of the particular complaint. If any other agency like that does have jurisdiction, like I said, our office will not exercise jurisdiction and instead in writing that we do not have jurisdiction and direct them toward the correct agency that would have that jurisdiction. If the city does have jurisdiction, our office will initiate enforcement proceedings in municipal court upon receipt of a verified complaint. And any complaints against the city will automatically be forwarded to the appropriate state or federal agency. The city will not undertake any kind of enforcement action against itself. Obviously, that would be a conflict. All right, now you guys. The Equal Rights Commission has 9 citizen members who are appointed for 3-year terms. Typically, although I know initially your terms are staggered so that we don't have turnover of the full commission all at once in 3 years. And also, obviously, we do have an alder on the commission, and the alder's terms are 2 years because that's the alder's actual term in office. So it'd be hard to make their term any longer than that. Our ordinance requires at least 4 meetings per year by the commission, but you are free to set your own schedule and meet more frequently than that if you choose to do so. The ordinance provides for the opportunity for the commission to engage with members of the community, employers, housing providers, community orgs that can not only create a positive working relationship with the city, but also to work together to meet the commission's goals and further the not only raising awareness, but the progress toward the dealing with the equity issues that the commission will be addressing. And there are 2 different reporting requirements that the commission is one concerns reporting by the city to the commission, and the other is reporting by the commission to the mayor and the common council. So the Human Resources Department will at the commission's meetings inform the commission of the city government's efforts to achieve the policy objectives that were stated on those first couple slides. This includes programs and activities that the city is currently conducting or has conducted, goals for the future, accomplishments that have already reached, challenges and strategies for the future, and other departments within the city will report to HR for HR to provide the information to the commission. But if the commission chooses, you can have representatives from those departments provide information either in writing or orally at your meetings if you would like more specific information from any particular department. The second half, or I should say the other part of the reporting is at least annually. Again, if you choose to do it more frequently than that, that's up to the commission. At least once a year, the commission will provide a report to the mayor and the common council, providing a summary of its activities and the progress that's been made with not only within the city government toward meeting the policy objectives, but also within the city at large. And also the part of the role of the commission will be to examine what is happening in the city at large that contributes to or detracts from DEI efforts and ways that the city can move toward a discrimination-free environment. And as part of that report to the mayor and council, it would include recommendations for furthering those policy objectives that were included in that first section of the chapter. So that was a lot of info that I threw at you. Anybody have any questions I can answer?
Thank you for walking us through that. Will the presentation be made available via the minutes afterward?
I can certainly, I can email it to Joe to email to all of you, or to whomever to email to all of you. Yes.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
You bet. Any other questions?
Lindsay, is there a budget for this commission? Do we have a budget to work with or no?
You do not. Okay. Not yet. And that's something that was discussed at the time that the ordinance was passed, but it was passed in the middle of a year. It wasn't budget time, and obviously it was in the middle of 2020, and things have been a little bit weird since then. So it's something that perhaps is maybe something you can bother Alder Corpus Dax about later.
Thank you.
And my thoughts on that as well is if there's any things that we need to budget for or things we want to spend money on, I guess we look at the Human Resources Department and then other departments that are affected by that as well. And then maybe outside donors. So we can always talk about what the programs and services are and look at other departments to try and find funding too.
I have a question about the annual report requirement. Does that follow a calendar year, a city fiscal year, and whatever the answer is to that one? When do we owe a report to the city? What's our first deadline here?
Yes. So it's not specified in the ordinance. It just says annually. We kind of discussed this among staff. Yes, with respect to the requirement that there be 4 meetings in a year, because it's already August. I don't think there need to be necessarily four meetings this year if that's not something that's so I think the only reference after year or anything like that is with respect to the election of the chair and the vice chair, which does state that it needs to be done at the first meeting of each calendar year. So if the commission's preference would be to just do it all within a calendar year, just to keep everything kind of business requirements kind of all happening at the same time, I think that would make sense. But to you all, I think. And if the first report ends up being, we were able to meet, that's what the first report is. So I think that, it's not defined one way or the other. It is something that we could amend the ordinance to be more specific about, so that there is more clear guidance. But I don't have a more specific answer for you than that.
No, that does help. Thank you.
You bet.
So I have a question. Thank you for all this. It sounds like there's a lot of flexibility for the commission to do a lot of different things. I'm wondering, are there examples of equal rights commissions elsewhere and the kind of stuff they've been able to do that, the Kerner Commission is really important and great. That was 50 years ago. Are there more recent commissions that we can look at too? That we might want to sort of model the work that we're doing on?
I can go ahead, Lindsey, with this one. So like Lindsey said, or Attorney Mather said, that Milwaukee and Madison have Equal Rights Commission. So it might be a good idea for staff and maybe some of the commissioners to reach out to Milwaukee and Madison and see some of the things that they're working on at this point, maybe some issues that they're looking at. So that's something that I'm not sure to say D&I coordinator Raya, or how we're going to say that, but something Raya and I can look into, and the ERC commissioners can also help with as well. So that's something we could do.
Milwaukee's commission does actually have a fair amount of materials available online, which I did look into a little bit when I was drafting the ordinance, particularly with respect to the commission. One thing to keep in mind about especially Milwaukee, but I believe it's true about Madison as well, is that they actually hear the complaints that are brought to their cities. So in the process that I just explained, for the most part, our office won't be handling the complaints. They'll be referred to other organizations. But even if they are referred at the city level, even if they are addressed at the city level, they'll be handled by our office rather than by the commission. So there are resources from those other cities that are certainly helpful to look at, but those portions of what they do as far as actually investigating complaints and the results of those investigations, those kinds of things will not be part of what this commission is doing.
Are there any other questions, or go ahead?
I was just going to add that I think that there was a, this vision is obviously left up to all of you, but the idea of both collecting and eliciting feedback from all kinds of constituencies and creating recommendations on how to bridge all kind of economic, cultural gaps that may or may not exist or may in the future exist, including other types of programming. So, obviously look to other places, other communities, but, other things that you all are working on and thinking about, there's room for that, including creating community-based hearings on LGBTQ access or affordability in the city, or access to disabilities, or folks who are young at heart. There's lots of rooms and creativity amongst yourselves to decide best way, both holistic and document, if you will, the times of both inequities and the challenges and opportunities for us to create something new or look back with a new lens on the different things that are happening. I think the mayor is really leaning on all of you to really figure out how can you help us shape both a policy and a practice agenda that allows us to make the city more reflective of its residents' needs of all different backgrounds. So I just want to make sure that's quite clear that there is a hope that you all can figure out the best way to build that kind of programming, and obviously more robust over time, but that we're going to be looking to all of you to help us figure out, is there some policy changes that we should be looking at, some protocol changes? Is there ways in which we can create recognition and celebration that's both culturally relevant and really reflective of the residents of the community? These are all things that you all could create. You can even create awards for celebrating all the great ways in which people are trying to create a welcoming space for a variety of folks. So I don't want to overwhelm you with options. I just want to let you know that there are all kinds of unique ways in which you all as commissioners can lead on, and that we're going to be looking to you all to tell us the best ways to do that as we move forward.
I think Ahmed said all. One thing to think about going forward for me is laying the ground to say, what do we have, and what what is it that we want to make Green Bay look like going forward. We all work for nonprofit organizations. We know challenges that is happening already within the community, but that's not yet enough. As I was thinking, I think having community conversations of equal rights is paramount going forward. I can say I know the refugees and immigrant community, but that's not true, because I know only maybe a third, a three-quarter of the problem or challenges that might be tackled through policy. So I think what we need to have, we need to convene, and some of the things just need co-creation. For example, there's a lot of things that nonprofits are doing that needs alignment, for example, or working together, or more, networking and, more partnership building. So more about co-creation and a co-production of community. We want to bring those communities in the center of the conversation, so they become the creators of their own district, rather than someone doesn't know about that, doing or saying something for them. I would start that. It's not something that is going to be done overnight, but it's something that if we start going forward, think about it, that is going to bring about change. I think that's all I'll add that, and I stop talking.
Just have a quick question. Are we looking at adding more commissioners or more representation? As we were reading the document, thinking about like, disabilities and years. I know there's Stephanie, I can't recall her name, but she's in another committee where I am representing also the Hispanics, and she's in the, she's represents the disabled people community. And I don't know if you're looking at doing something, since a lot of it has to do also with people with disability. And I don't know of seniors, if you would look at, having somebody representing the seniors. That's just a thought. I don't know if you're looking into adding more representation or just tap into other agencies for input.
I think at this point, 9 commissioners is a pretty big group. And you can all imagine it was not easy to set up this schedule. So set up this meeting. So when you have more commissioners, that makes it even more difficult. But I think you are on the right track with that, where there's a lot of different groups that need to be heard and have to be represented. And so it's really up to the commissioners if you want to, I think like you said, reach out to partners and maybe have them come to a meeting and give some thoughts or input on what's going on, or also just invite single individuals from the community to show up and give their thoughts as well. They're always invited to these meetings. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of different groups that we need to represent, and we can tackle that a lot of different ways.
And I'd like to just jump in and remind our commissioners that, differently abled people, there are various challenges that people have, and not all disabled people have disabilities that are visible. And so that's something to keep in mind. We may have somebody as part of this commission with a challenge or a disability that's not a visible disability. So that's important to keep in mind as well.
Do we have any other thoughts or questions? And also just to keep in mind, the law department, HR department, the mayor's office, we're always available. So if you guys have any questions, you can always reach out to me first if you'd like to. Send me an email, give me a call, and I can direct you in the right way if I don't know the answer to it. So anything else we want to finish up on? We do have a couple more items, and also the last item to talk about kind of your thoughts and ideas moving forward. So we do have more of an opportunity to talk about this commission.
Just one last thing, Joe. To follow up on Joe's point about getting a call, you all are now commissioners. This is, public record. This is a public meeting. That means that like members of the press and other people can and will be able to contact you. If there's anything you all need around best practices or engagement with the press, or any ways that we can be helpful and supportive to you as you navigate, have very public roles, but in this capacity, in a very public facing role, please don't hesitate to reach out either to our legal folks who can help you answer any technical questions, to Joe and Raya around this formation. If you have any other kinds of questions, let us know. But I just want to be like very clear that you all are now public serving commissioners on the inaugural Equal Rights Commission. That's a really big deal. There's going to be a lot of interest. I imagine that there will be folks interested both in the press and the public. So if you want some support in that way, we're happy to give you anything you need, but your information will be available. People will be able to, think about that as you are navigating your new roles.
And just as a follow-up to that, I appreciate the reminder. These meetings are all subject to all of Wisconsin's open meetings, open records laws. And with respect to open meetings, one of the things that we have to be careful for is just making sure that we're not having basically any quorum of the commission, having any conversations about commission business outside of these public commission meetings. And that includes like email conversations. So if there's anything that needs to be discussed, it really should be done in these meetings, as opposed to even sending an email to the rest of the commission, because anybody responds to that, and we have a problem with an open meetings, potential open meetings problem. So just want everybody to kind of keep that in mind, that commission business should be discussed in these commission meetings. If you have any specific questions about any of that, open meetings, open records, how any of that works, like they said, feel free to reach out to me or to Joe or Ahmed, and they can direct you my way, whatever's easiest, I should say. Just wanted to make sure I kind of highlighted that, because I know that not all of you are elected officials, so you may not have had that information before. So I think that's it for me, though, and nobody else has questions.
Yeah, it's a lot of information, but just always feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and we're here to help you through it. All right, so then does someone want to make a motion to receive and place this on file?
I'll make a motion to receive and place this on file.
Second by Marcus. All right, so then all in favor, please say aye.
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 All
Aye.
opposed? Yep. Sorry, all opposed, say nay. All right, hearing none, we can move on to the next one. And just hold on one second. I'm going to put this in our management system. All right, now we're on to regular business. We got there. So it's with, I'm trying to pull up my agenda here. So consideration with possible action to appoint a chair. So I'm not sure if there's a motion that wants to be made or discussion first. It's really up to the commission on how they want to handle this.
Joe, I have a quick question. As far as chair, vice chair, is for note taking, do we have someone designated to note take? Because I know for the county level we do a treasurer, but then our secretary, but then I just wanted to see how this worked for the city.
So we typically don't have anyone taking notes at our meetings. They're all recorded, and then our management software system, you can go back to our website and kind of click on every single item and it'll bring you to the video. And you kind of have to listen and watch it. We also have our minutes that are put together, but typically I'd say that staff is usually taking notes as well and kind of keeping a list of what needs to be done. So to answer the questions, we don't have a treasurer, don't have anyone taking formal notes other than the minutes and recording of the video.
Okay, thank you.
There's also verbatim minutes that are prepared as well, which will provide literally everything that was said in the meeting and will be attached to the minutes after they're prepared. So we don't have to take notes other than what Joe is doing in our internal system right now. So we get a little lucky that way.
I'll nominate Tara if she's willing to accept for chair.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyone else for my contender, you know, I wish you well. And I mean, like, you know, I do want to be chair, but I think I would like to nominate, I don't know if anyone else is going to nominate Commissioner Shelton, but I've heard great stuff about Commissioner Shelton, so I'll nominate Commissioner Shelton.
So I guess let's handle this real quick. So with all their, well, maybe Commissioner Shelton, why don't you just go ahead? We'll be all right.
I was about to second Commissioner Yang.
So I guess, so we have a motion by Elder Corpus Dax and a second by Commissioner Shelton for Commissioner Yang to be the chair. And I guess, is there anyone that wants to have discussion on that?
I think with when you're looking at a chair of anything, if someone is excited to do it, that's usually a good person to do it. So I would be willing to do it, but I think Commissioner Yang would do a terrific job, and I would fully support that. So.
That sounds good. So we have a motion by Alder Corpus Dax and a second by Commissioner Shelton. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, say nay. All right, hearing none, we have a chair, Commissioner Yang. So if you can hold on for 1 second, I'm going to enter this in, but yeah, we can clap.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. I mean, this is a collaborative effort, so it might say chair, but all of your voices and opinions are what really is going to make this group move forward.
Just hold on 1 second. All right, and now we're on to the next item. Chair Yang, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to nominate Commissioner Shelton for this position for vice chair, if he would accept the offer.
Certainly.
I'll second.
All right.
But I do want to say, if somebody else is enthusiastic about being vice chair, I'm totally open to other suggestions, other nominations, I mean.
And then I guess, Chair Yang, do you want to go ahead and ask if you want to say aye or say nay?
Yeah, absolutely. So all in favor of having Commissioner Shelton as vice chair, please say aye.
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 And any who oppose? All right, so it sounds like Commissioner Shelton, welcome aboard as the vice chair.
Thank you.
All right, and then Joe, would you like me to do the rest to go to the next agenda item, or are you still handling this meeting now?
No, you can go to the next one.
Okay, and then do we need a motion to go to the next agenda item? Is that right, or no, or to close this? Okay.
No, we're closed with the motion and the second, and then the voting, and then we just go on to the next item if you want to read it, and then we can move on from there.
All right, so going on to the next agenda item, consideration with possible action to discuss the needs of different groups and diversity, equity, and inclusion in the city of Green Bay as a community and organization. Now, I think Joe had some items in that.
Yeah, so there's, I guess the first thing I'd like to do, if there's anyone that would like to start off with their thoughts on this item, to please go ahead. And then I know Ryan and I can add a little bit at the end, but this is your opportunity if there's any thoughts or concerns about the needs of the community, the needs of the city as an organization.
Joe, can I chime in even though I'm not on the commission?
Yeah, you can.
I just wanted to bring it to the commission's attention. When we went through the process of bringing the ordinance to committee, there was a provision in there allowing for the inclusion of receipt of rental assistance as a protected class, which was aimed at expanding or I guess eliminating potential discrimination on the basis that somebody receives like federal housing assistance or something like that. And the committee chose to remove the language because based on a discussion with community partners and others at the meeting, We really didn't have enough information to have included it the way that it was included in the ordinance at the time. But it was something that the Protection Policy Committee and that they wanted to circle back and to get input from different housing associations around the city to potentially, because a lot of them that were at the meeting said it was something that they were do, but that the way that it was structured would not work, I guess, and that it was something that should be before it was included in the ordinance. So just if that's something that is of interest to the commission, I know that that's something that there was interest both in council and in the community in expanding access to housing in that way, or I guess limiting discrimination in housing in that way.
And then I can go to so Ryan and I have really been focusing a lot on, I guess, the internal diversity and inclusion and diversity, equity, and inclusion at the city of Green Bay. And Ryan's done a great job of putting together kind of like a draft diversity and inclusion strategic plan that we're looking at finalizing and talking over with the mayor probably the next 30 days to really get a good draft that I think at our next meeting we'd be ready to send to the ERC, have you guys review it and for your input as well. So that's one thing I think we can kind of start with at our next meeting. And then I know Raya's done a lot of great work with our whole human resources department on trying to improve ways to recruit diverse candidates, trying to get up and running our employee resource groups, which I know Commissioner Vincent's at Schreiber, they do a great job with their ERGs, and we've talked to Schreiber when we put them in place, and we know it takes years to get that up and running. So it's something we're working on, and hopefully we'll get there. But there's a couple of things that we've really been focusing on, but the main thing right now is recruiting diverse candidates, and that's a work in progress with our HR department and East department, because one thing that's great about the city is we have so many different opportunities, so many different jobs, but every single job you kind of have a different recruitment for, which is fun and challenging at the same time. So those are kind of the big things we're focusing on right now internally for the city.
Thank you, Joe, for the update. Raya, I don't know if you had anything else to add to what Joe was saying there, or if anyone else has any other comments about what Joe just spoke about. Feel free to unmute yourself and speak.
No, Joe touched on it perfectly. Much of our energy and a lot of my energy is going forth towards our recruitment efforts for the DE&I world. And so we're really working quite diligently at assessing and looking at different policy and really looking at how we can bring those diverse candidates in. So that's high on my list of priorities at this time.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say, I think probably a lot of you are feeling like I'm feeling like I'm just really kind of getting a grasp of like, what are some of the possibilities, what are some of the things that we can do. And, so maybe it makes sense for us all to put some time in like really thinking about what are some big possibilities. And also, we're all, I think, pretty connected to other people in this community, spending some time talking to people in our networks and thinking about me personally, like it was really, not to disparage Mayor Ginrich's pitch to me, but it was really Ahmad's pitch to me that got me excited about this. And specifically, how, Ahmad spoke about the power of something like the Kerner Commission to really kind of like reframe the conversation around something like racial injustice. And so, I think what I'm really interested in doing, and I hope the rest of you agree, and I think you do, we should really be thinking big here and really be thinking about some really big constructive ideas we can get into the conversation sort of moment. And so, I think that's how I'm going to approach the next, few weeks, and between now and when we decide to meet again, or thinking about some some really big ways to engage in this conversation. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows a lot of the problems we face here, right? I mean, nationally, we've got this, in spite of what things look like for work, it's really long-term, economic inequality that I think is manifested in some really powerful ways here in Green Bay, where you have, lots of new housing development, but a lot of people being left behind and can't afford, what I think probably all of us would consider the basic human right of decent housing. So, I think, I just wanted to say that's what I'm going to be doing, is thinking about some big and creative things that we can do in this commission. And, I hope that we can all kind of do that between now and the next time that we meet. So I'll just kind of leave it there.
I just have a question. Prior to the creation of the commission, did the city had any way of gathering information about specific complaints or things that people will bring to to the city in general, that can give us a sort of a picture of the urgency of certain issues that affect diverse groups in the city, or this is the first time this commission is being created, and therefore there is a protocol for complaints being established? Thank you.
Yeah, so I think Lindsay, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. So prior to the ordinance, there wasn't a mechanism at the city level for accepting complaints. So any complaints were submitted directly either to the Department of Workforce Development or HUD or the EEOC or whatever was applicable, based on whatever that actually was. Those complaints would not have come directly to us unless they were complaints against us. So, and I don't know if Joe has any insight on that, because I think that would have come to the attention of HR. But with respect to kind of broader than just the city as an order, that's not something that we would have had necessarily. I know that complaints against the Green Bay Housing Authority were actually investigated out of Milwaukee because we didn't have any mechanism up here. And I believe that that's still going to be the case if those come up. Because they have contracts that they are with the housing authority. So
if I understand you correctly, we don't have to investigate complaints brought up about housing discrimination in the city of Green Bay?
Complaints against the Green Bay Housing Authority so the Housing Authority has a contract with HUD HUD has rules, and under the HUD rules, we have to work with a particular type of investigator. There isn't one in this area, and so our complaints are investigated out of Milwaukee. Just like that we've been, because these would fall under the jurisdiction of another entity, we still would not be investigating these complaints at the city level. Commissions in other cities like Milwaukee, their commissions do investigate those complaints, but they have significantly more resources dedicated to them at the city level. That just wasn't something that we didn't feel like we could task the commission with investigating any complaints that came in without providing a budget to do that with. So it's unfortunate, but we don't investigate them at the city level. I shouldn't say unfortunate. It's just the that's just the reality at this particular moment.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I mean, I don't think this is speaking out of line or anything, but there's the thought process is, do we want this commission to be investigating complaints, or do you want this commission to focus on building a community and focusing on, policies from that perspective? And that's where I think we lean towards of kind of community building. And there's all these other outlets, the Equal Rights Division, the EEOC, that, HUD, they have the resources to investigate these complaints. And I understand that maybe sometimes it's better to keep it within your municipality to investigate the complaint because you understand the community and understand the people about it. But at this point, I think we're trying to focus on building a community in our policy, changing our policy. So that's why I think, along the budget, that's why the focus is more on that instead of investigation. But then with the broader concepts too, I think what we should do is staff, we can reach out to the mayor's office and see if there's any kind of complaints or maybe more of just issues that come to their office that we can look into. Perhaps the chamber, the Green Bay Chamber, has some data on this, and maybe the county does as well, that we can kind of look at maybe known issues that we can focus on.
So I don't know if this will fall into this kind of committee, but I know for the Hispanics, there's a lot of profiling with the police, the traffic, stopping for minor things, just to check them. And I don't know, if this will fall into this kind of discrimination here, equal rights. But it's something that I know there is a very common complaint with the Hispanic community that they get stopped for doing nothing. It's more like a profiling kind of thing.
To add to that, I do think it would be wonderful if, and thinking about different departments that could report to us, would love to hear from the new police chief at some point in the coming months, to understand his perspectives, his point of view, and for us to have a dialogue.
Yeah, that would be great. I know that through Casa Alba, we worked a lot with the previous chief. And, I know a lot of any new police officers that were hired, they will come and visit Casa Alba and learn a little bit about the Hispanic community. So yeah, it would be great if we can, bring the new chief into the commission as a guest. That would be great.
And I know an emphasis of the police department has been having that dialogue with the community. So I think having the police chief here, and then also whether it's the ERC and the PFC, and maybe it's something together, foster or facilitate that conversation, I think that's a great idea.
Joe, I was wondering if you can clarify a little bit more about if we were to collaborate and have them come speak in the group, would that just be part of the agenda items, or would they be public speakers at the end of the meeting, or how would that work? If we invited like the police chief to speak with us and we were collaborating with PFC.
Yeah, so we could do that multiple ways. I think the best way would probably be to have like an agenda item, like an update from the police department on X, Y, and Z. So we know what we're talking about, what the conversation is going to be focused on. With the PFC, I'm not sure exactly how we'd make that work. It's something I've never seen before. I know we kind of talked about that last week, and it might just be kind of like a joint meeting or something like that, where we invite the people. But yeah, it can either be a joint meeting, they could be invited as just members of the public to speak, and we can open up the floor for them to speak, or it can be agenda items. So there's multiple ways we can have those conversations.
But we don't have, I don't know if this is what you're asking, but we don't have any space on any of our agendas for just speakers from the public to just speak about anything. So any speakers would have to be speaking about a particular agenda item anyway. In general, we were to have them have an agenda item ahead of time, particularly for public notice requirements. requirements and stuff like that as well.
Are there any more discussions or comments that you guys would like to talk about? I know it's 6:39 right now, so I just want to be mindful of everyone's time here. Before we close out, I do want to say that since I am sitting on the ad hoc racial equity committee for the county, and I work closely with the Brown County Health Department as well. They're working on a document. It's a working document right now, but they're working on a document to make sure they talk to all the organizations in town and some of the large businesses on what they're working on in the DE&I realm. And so I sent that over to Joe, but it's just right now, it's just there's only a few organizations that filled it out so far. So as it grows and as we get more information in it, I would love to share that with the group just so that you guys can see what everyone else is working on. It's nonprofits and then also larger businesses like Schreiber. You have your hospital systems are in there. And so there's quite a few organizations that are in that document. But as soon as we get more information filled out in there, I will share that with the group. But I think that it'd be great to see where we can fit in or fill in holes in there within that work.
And go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest, I mean, maybe one of the things we should talk about, I mean, and if this is directly related to that, Joe, just feel free to circle back, but you know, maybe we should talk about when we want to meet again and sort of like what kind of time window we want for that, so that everybody can kind of think about maybe some specific things to kind of bring to the table next time.
Yeah, do we think September? You think that's a quick enough turnaround?
I think September would be great.
So what I can do is there like I can look at the September agenda for other meetings, and do we think that Monday nights are the best nights to meet?
Sure.
And then Monday nights work. Every other one.
That works for me.
Works for me too.
Yeah, so when we look at Monday evening, so tomorrow we have a common council meeting. So our report is not going to be going to the common council tomorrow. We'll have to wait for the next one. So we'll just have to think about trying to be the Monday before the common council meeting, the week before. So I'll try and do that as well. But I know we also have like protection of policy, so that might not work. So it might have to be 2 Mondays before. So we'll see what we can do for that. And Attorney Mather had, I don't know if you want to say this, but I can say it, I guess. Commissioner Yang, if you'd like to have like a reoccurring item about an update from the county on what you just talked about with other organizations, we could always put that on the agenda as well.
Perfect. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, it would just be like an informational item. So it wouldn't be under regular business because it wouldn't be an action item, but it would just be under informational. So if there ever is a week where you're like, I don't have anything, then that's all you say and then it's done.
Perfect. Thank you. Is there any other questions or concerns or comments that the commissioners have? I believe that is the.
Just to comment that I'm very much looking forward to the preview of the draft with grounding for all of us as we move forward. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to look at it and digest and give
I have a quick question about the strategic plan. So with that, one of the things that I always run into when I'm working with different groups on D&I is they'll have this amazing hiring process and recruiting process, but then when they have those workers come on board, they're not invited to the table to make decisions or to really to have a voice at the table. So is that played into this strategic plan as well? After the hiring process, is there steps to ensure that they are involved?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure if it's written in the D&I plan as we have it right now. I think it is. Raya's nodding, but it's something we talk about all the time about employee engagement and inclusivity and making sure that we're promoting, not just recruiting people to get them in the door, but also giving them opportunities to be promoted and opportunities to be heard and listened to. So that's a big initiative from the city for everyone, every department, to have more engagement with their employees, have more open discussion, communication with between supervisors, between coworkers, and between departments too. So yeah, that's definitely a focus we want to continue to work on, and it's a work in progress. We're not there yet, but we're getting there.
Great.
Tara, I would just echo Joe on that. That's something that I'm constantly thinking about. And part of, as you'll see next time around when we kind of walk through some of that, I've developed some educational programming surrounding social and emotional intelligence as it relates to diversity, equity, inclusion. I really do feel that it all goes hand in hand. And so I'm trying to build that foundation for the city internally to have some of those discussions and really be equipped with different concepts and ideologies surrounding the basis of that foundation. And so that's something that I lean into heavily, and really engaging employees. That's huge on my radar, and that's something that we have ongoing conversations surrounding. So as Joe mentioned, specifically, it may not be reflected in this current draft, but that is something that we speak about regularly at every meeting we have surrounding DE&I as it relates to hiring. And so there's definite discussion surrounding that, and there is an awareness surrounding the need for that level of engagement and bringing people to the table. That's where the retention factor comes in, and so we will definitely get more into that as we walk through that plan together.
Thank you, and I appreciate that you guys have been discussing that and that there's actually a thought process behind that, so I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, are there any comments or concerns, questions that you guys have related to this group or in general? So going back to what Commissioner Shelton was saying with how he has hopes for us to dig deep and really make a difference. I want to echo that as well. I really hope that we, as commissioners, we have the chance to make policy changes, and so, or at least help push towards some positive impacts in the community. So I really want to challenge us as well to really think deep and like Commissioner Sean was saying, really talk to your connections and your network and see what they have to say and what issues are out there. Although we don't have seniors here, or we're missing a few of the groups here, it doesn't mean that we are limited. We can always reach out and do our networking in other ways as well to make sure that their voices are heard in this group. But with that being said, are there any other questions, comments, concerns for this group that you guys would have for discussion today? If not, I would like to see if you guys would like to close out the meeting. Joe, if there's, is it okay to close the meeting after this agenda item? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think what we can do is maybe have a motion to hold until the next meeting, because I think we want to come back and talk to some of the members of the community and see what other issues are out there. So maybe we hold it for the next meeting, have the motion on that, and then from there, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Okay, Can we get a motion to hold for the next meeting?
Motion to hold.
I second.
Okay, so we got a motion to hold from Alder Corpus and then a second from Commissioner Elizabeth. Is that right? Did I hear that
Christina.
right?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Commissioner Christina Ortiz. Okay.
I think you get a voice.
Oh, yeah, sorry. And then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all not in favor, please say nay. Okay. With that being said, can we get a motion for adjournment of the meeting?
So moved.
Second. I know one.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I keep forgetting that. Okay, can I get a motion? All aye.
Aye.
Anyone not in favor? Okay, thank you everyone for a great first meeting. We will be in touch about the next meeting in September, but thank you, Joe, Raya, Ahmad, and Elder, and then all the commissioners. Really appreciate your time today.
And thank you, Tara and John, for chairing and vice chairing the commission. It's great meeting you all.
Have a good night.
Congratulations, Trinity and John.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.